Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Olympia Zorba Music Hall. And welcome, if it's the first event you've been to, welcome to the 2023 Lowell Celebrates Kerouac Fall Festival. Started yesterday, had a big kickoff, had a bunch of great events, bunch of tours, bunch of things going on, and we do have events going on all weekend long, right through Monday. You see the programs around. I'm Mike Flynn, Wireless Mike Flynn from 91.5 WUML Lowell, but I'm also the current president of Lowell Celebrates Kerouac, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you guys all here. Whether you're from Lowell and you're coming out to check out the event, or you are from far and wide and are here to experience Kerouac in Lowell, it is our great pleasure to welcome everyone here. That is our raison d'etre, and this is the 35th year of Lowell Celebrates Kerouac festivals in the city of Lowell, going back to 1988 with the dedication of the beautiful Kerouac commemorative and the design down there by Ben Wotina. So we are here tonight. This is our tribute to David Amram. And for anyone who just came in and didn't get the news yet, David Amram is not in the house tonight. He was not able to come up to Lowell this weekend because, unfortunately, he was diagnosed with COVID on Wednesday night. He is doing well, and he's resting and recuperating at home, but has to quarantine until Monday. So David will not be here in flesh, but he will be here in spirit. We have a fantastic program put together tonight, including the wonderful Yoshiko Klein, who will be performing David's Piano Sonata 1960. So his work will come to life in a spectacular fashion. I've been here for the sound check, and I know that that's going to be a delight. And that's coming up a little bit later on. And then we have a wonderful jazz poetry reading with the one and only John Sinclair, who is around here somewhere, but I may have lost him in the lights. And that's going to be the finale of the show. We have two great poets, Meg Smith and George Wallace, who are going to do a very special two-part tribute to David and some poetry with the band. But before I do that, I would like to bring up a very distinguished person here in the city of Lowell, and I would like to introduce him to the Lowell Celebrates Kerouac crowd. If you're a Lowellian, you know him. If you are from far and wide, I would like to introduce the mayor of the city of Lowell, Mayor Sokhary Chau, to come up and say a few words about what David has brought to this city by coming up for Lowell Celebrates Kerouac annually since 1994. Mayor Sokhary Chau, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. What an honor it is to be here today, and we always been a big supporter of Lowell Celebrate Kerouac. So I've been told to put this closer. Can you hear me okay now? Oh, perfect, perfect. So I feel like I'm Jack Kerouac once in a while. I'm always on the road, always moving. And I have to tell you, he was one of my biggest influence coming to America after you learn about the literature, the English, the stories, the novels. I was lucky enough back in the early 1990s, a friend of mine gave me the book On the Road. And of course, at that time, my mode of transportation was strung by bus, right? So, you know, I'd be on the bus, reading the book, going to different towns, different cities, different colleges. So I sort of experienced America through On the Road, Jack Kerouac, and what an honor it is to be in the city of Lowell, where we have the Jack Kerouac Park, and today we're here to honor one of the greats to make sure that this tradition continues in the city of Lowell. I am here to present a citation to David Amram, and I understand that he's not here today, but this citation is presented by myself and the entire city council. So I'm going to read the citation. I'm sure he's going to hear about this later on, and his friends and everybody will let him know that we are here to present this to him. Be it hereby known to all that the city of Lowell in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby offers our sincerest congratulations to David Amram upon the celebration of David Amram Day. David Amram has attained a celebrated career spanning 8 decades where he has experienced success as a composer, jazz artist, and writer. He began his career in 1951, placing the French horn in the National Symphony Orchestra in Washington, D.C. Since then, he has traveled the world as a musician and as a conductor, and composed scores for numerous films, including Splendor in the Grass, The Arrangement, The Avengers, and The Manchurian Candidate, all my favorite movies, right? Early into his career, he formed a personal and professional bond with Lowell native Jack Kerouac and collaborated with him on artistic works, including providing a jazz backup to Kerouac's poetry reading and producing the film Pull My Daisy. Alongside him, since the mid-1990s, while continuing his artistic endeavors, David Amram has regularly attended the annual Lowell Celebrates Jack Kerouac Festival, where he has spent time with Lowell high school students, shared his experience with Kerouac, and provided music accompaniments for the evening. At the festival this year, we honor him and his contribution to the community. Now, what's most important is that we are here to celebrate with him the success and the legacy of Jack Kerouac. And I am also honored here tonight, I see in the audience, my neighbor, a great poet, Meg Smith, there as well, right? So it's just such a great room of people, all the poets, the literary, everyone who just appreciate artistic work are here tonight. And I want to welcome you, the entire city of Lowell welcome you, and congratulations to David Amram and the entire Jack Kerouac Celebration Committee. Thank you.
All right, Lowell Mayor Sokhary Chau, ladies and gentlemen. And he's making my job easy for me, because the next person that I am going to introduce is the mayor's neighbor, a phenomenal Lowell poet. She's a poet, she's an author, she's also a journalist. She's a past board member of Lowell Celebrates Kerouac and is a staunch supporter of what we do. And she has a long history with David Amram that she's going to reveal and revel you guys with in just a few moments, as well as do a few of her poems. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Meg Smith, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Mike, and thank you to my neighbor, His Honor Mayor Chau, for that actually really beautiful and eloquent introduction to what we hope to do tonight. And sending, of course, our love and spirit out to David Amram. And I'm going to go off script just a little bit, not for the first time. But David, I think as many people here know, has been coming to Lowell Celebrates Kerouac for many years. And when he does that, he is not only bringing his tremendous talents as a musician, his tremendous living history as someone who was close to Jack Kerouac and the other beat authors, but David is in every sense an advocate. He's an advocate for every person that he comes into contact to. And I know, firstly, for witnessing with my own eyes, he uplifts people, and whether they are just talking to him in conversation or he is playing some music while they read poetry or while they play their own instruments, every person in that room is a star, and we are all stars in that constellation. So we wish David all the healing and peace and love that he himself brings to the festival every year. And I'm so glad that you all can be here with us today to send that love out to him. So my friend George Wallace, who's the other poet who's going to be presenting tonight, had asked about having a tribute to David Amram long before all this happened, long before the COVID diagnosis happened. And in some ways, it is definitely a little bit serendipitous in that way. So he asked me, would I help put together some memories, really, of the time that I've known David, not only as a guest at Lowell Celebrates Kerouac, but really as a friend. And I said, yes, of course, I would be honored to do that. So, we're gonna have a short journey, if you would bear with me. These are some of my photos, some of my memories. And so this first photo is actually from the 2012 Lowell Celebrates Kerouac Festival, and it is particularly special to me because that's me on the left, that's David Amram on the right. The person in the middle is my late husband, Lawrence Carradini, who was also very close to David Amram. Thank you. Thank you very much, John. That is most appreciated. Larry, as we call him, by the way, he was also involved in Lowell Celebrates Kerouac. He was the president for 6 years. And David treated both me and him just tremendously wonderfully in that capacity. And that's, in fact, how we got to know him. So the first time I met David was actually during the 1994 Lowell Celebrates Kerouac Festival. Yeah, there were no selfies then. just lots of photos in shoeboxes somewhere. So during that time, he played for the very small, almost incidental open mic event that grew to become the Amram Jam, which if any of you have been there, you know. Yeah, exactly. It's a hugely demanded event every year. Everybody wants just that few minutes to spend on stage with David Amram. And that's how that began in the coffee mill, which in his other life had been an insurance office. But whoever knew it was going to become like the kernel of this wonderful event. So it was a lot smaller. It was in that, as I said, the space of the coffee mill. And I came away, and this is the truth, this is the first time I ever met him, and I immediately came away with the impression of his kindness and generosity. And I was really a little overwhelmed because I thought, I'd only been involved with the festival a couple of years, and I thought, this guy is the living embodiment of the Beat legacy, and he's here just playing alongside those of us that were just coming with our maybe first attempt at poetry. And I think everyone, quite frankly, came away with that impression. But it was really during the 2000 Lowell Celebrates Kerouac Festival that a friendship formed with David, myself, and my husband, Larry, Lawrence Carradini, who would go on to become the festival board president. By the way, I want to stop and really give a shout out to the person who's running the slides here is the person you just saw at the microphone, Mike Flynn. He is indeed the president, and he's doing an amazing job doing lots of things on stage, off stage, everywhere. That you're going to see him absolutely everywhere this whole weekend, as well as all the tremendous board members of LCK. So can we just take a moment to give them all a shout out, please? I have done this work. It is not easy. It is not glamorous. It's not even poetic, the slightest bit, but it is the poetry that makes the festival go. So thank you, Mike, from my heart. So as I said, this is the 2000 Lowell Celebrates Kerouac Festival. And during that year, at the commemorative at Kerouac Park, I mentioned to David about my career as an Oriental dancer. And because I had seen that in his Cairo to Kerouac program, he did play some Middle Eastern music. So I asked him if he would like for me, during the Cairo to Kerouac presentation of world music that was later that day at the Whistler House Museum of Art, if he would like me to dance during that portion. And David said yes. And when I think of that day and that performance, I remember how amazing and magical it was for me, because right afterward, I drove home and I called my dance teacher, Zubaida, who, by the way, is another local legend, Helen Perry, literally brought Middle Eastern dance to this whole region. Well, I called her up and I said, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I just performed with David Amram and his band. I can't believe it. And I'm telling you this, but I still can't believe it. And it was at, as you see, the beautiful Whistler House Art Museum. And there's a lot of memories on the way of the slideshow. That picture was taken by another gentleman that we honor in memory at this year's festival, Phil Chaput, who actually became like an unofficial documenter of the festival. So that's one of his pictures. And one of the gentlemen in the foreground is another friend that we honor in memory, Alan Crane. They're in that picture, as well as myself in the middle. The lady getting up dancing around the people, that's me. And that's David Amram and his ensemble in the background. So the song we performed was Ayazain. It's a beautiful one. It's a popular Arabic folk song. And we have performed it together, David's ensemble and I, many times over the year at the festival. And we also performed it at a gig in Greenwich Village and one in the Catskills. And every time that we perform it, my mind goes back to that day at the 2000 festival. Because for many years, David brought not only his music and memories of Kerouac to the festival, but he celebrates Lowell with all the people who live and work here. And for many years, we had the Thursday night event at Cappy's Copper Kettle, and David would always exclaim about Lowell's authenticity. Who would imagine such a place, he said. He truly meant it. He uplifted Lowell just as he uplifts everyone around him. And as I was going through the festival, here we are, this is Cappy's Copper Kettle, which is sort of passed out of the Kerouac legacy. That's David and Larry up there, and it was really a tremendous place. And but David really remarked upon all of these magical spaces here in Lowell. So hopping ahead a little bit to the 2012 festival, there is another gentleman in this picture. And again, as time goes on, this is the way of it. We begin to honor our close friends and dear ones in memory. And this is another such person. This is Mick Cusimano. He was part of the Squawk Coffee House in Cambridge, and they would all come in a big gang every year to the festival with all kinds of noise and life and a very special spark. And so I realized as I was going through these pictures that there were a lot of moments captured in time of people who are no longer here, and that includes Mick and Alan Crane, as I mentioned, and of course, Larry. So now we're hopping a little bit ahead once more to the 2013 festival. And this picture is Larry's final public performance at the festival. And I will tell you, it is hard to share this photo because it's just a few months before Larry passed away. But it was important for me to share it. And I'm glad because David, Larry, and I were all together at the festival for one final photo and one final memory. So when I think about David, I think about how much he has given everyone that involved. He even made up thank you songs for Meg and Larry. He just made up these spontaneous songs with like about 100 verses for each of us, and we were quite stunned. And that was an honor enough, but even though he's a world-famous musician, as we all know, David looks and sees everyone working hard to make this festival possible. He really, truly does. And he doesn't only see what happens on stage, but also the dedication and love that it takes to make these events come alive. And I've been thinking a lot about the quiet offstage moments, like when Larry and I got married, David called us on the phone and played the wedding march over the phone for us, on the phone in our kitchen, in our new home. And that actually just might be my favorite performance of his. So here's a little collage. These are, again, some favorite memories of different years with David. And I think for me, David Amram is the true persistence of memory. He loves and remembers people. He holds them close in his heart. He jams with every musician as if they were the world's biggest jazz or rock star and makes them feel that way. He gives people that feeling to write a song or a poem or to dance or to completely make up something spontaneous. And I will always be grateful to call David Amram a friend. And I think of all the people who've come into contact with him, even for the briefest time, and who, like me, are out there somewhere dancing on air. Thank you so much for listening to my memories of time with my good friend David Amram. Thank you so much. And now just a few moments before we got started here, as I was approached by the band and asked if I would mind reading some of my new poems with them. But I think that's probably going to happen a little later on in the program, I'm thinking. Yeah? Yeah. Because they're all sitting down and eating, as they should. So thank you so much again for taking the time to listen to me. There's all kinds of things going on at the festival. Mike just held up the brochure. They're all around. We still have lots of events to check out. And I hope that you enjoy as many of them as you can, and that you have a wonderful festival and safe and happy journeys wherever your travels will take you next. Thank you.
Meg Smith, ladies and gentlemen, a phenomenal tribute to the one and only David Amram, and definitely a beautiful walk, down some of the memory lane of Lowell Celebrates Kerouac. That's one of the great things that I experience being, involved with Lowell Celebrates Kerouac now, is to get that history, because certainly in 1988 I wasn't running anything except maybe my mouth to my mom, who's sitting over there, by the wall over there. I should probably aghast that I'm pointing her out, but I was a little kid when this stuff all started. But it's something that's always been of great benefit to my life, and brought very interesting and exciting people into my life, like the next man that I am about to introduce. It is New York-based poet. He is the Walt Whitman birthplace writer in residence. He's a person who's been up here to Lowell. He's been our Parker lecturer at Lowell Celebrates Kerouac, and has brought poets up from Northport and other places. He's a phenomenal guy. He has a long history with David Amram, and he's going to come up and pay tribute. I'm talking about the fantastic poet, Mr. George Wallace, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hear it for George Wallace.
Okay. Are the politicians still here? No? I'm taking this jacket off. I only wore it for them. I thought I was going to meet Edward Kennedy. Yes, my name is George Wallace. It's a pleasure to be here. This particular venue, among the many I've been at during the years that I've come up to Lowell, and this is 35th year. It's exceptional for a lot of reasons, including a celebration of Vision of Gerard, 60th anniversary of a great book, a very important book of his oeuvre. So, and this opportunity, which I had no idea, I came up with the idea that that we should do a tribute to David Amram. I thought they were doing it, and I said, hey, maybe I could, piggyback on it. I don't remember, but I'm glad of whatever role I played in that, so thank you for that, Meg. It's great to be here with Meg and to see so many great friends who over the years have shared experiences and memories with David Amram and the Beat Constellation. I had a three-part thing, but if the musicians are eating, I've got a two-part thing. The first is we're going to go through a series of 10 slides, and I'm going to tell you some of the experiences around the country that I've had with David Amram, from Northport to here in Lowell and many other locations. So let's do that. It'll take about 8 to 10 minutes. Then the second thing I want to do is discuss with you for about 10 minutes my concept of Tao of David, because there's so many principles and practices that he presents that we can learn from as artists, musicians, and organizers of arts of various kinds, the Tao of David. Hopefully my little compendium and analysis of that will be useful to you. But first, let's take a look at 10 places where we've done some work together. Yeah, that's Larry again. This is in front of Northport Village Hall. Brian Hassett was there that day. We had the marathon reading for Big Sur. 4 cities, Northport, here in Lowell, down in Orlando, and out in San Francisco. And this was the second year that I've been working with David. I was the village historian in Northport at the time, and he got me a connection to John Samples so that I was able to come up and borrow a typewriter and a backpack and a sleeping bag of Jack's and bring it down for an exhibition in 2000. I remember distinctly, before leaving, I said, do you want me to sign some paperwork? And Samples said no, and he pulled out a Polaroid camera and took a picture of me with this stuff, and he said, that's my evidence. Anyway, that next year we did the Big Sur Marathon. That was back in the day when there was no Zoom or anything like that, so putting together 32 people to read 32 chapters of a book in 4 different cities simultaneously over a 12-hour period was pretty daunting, technologically. but made possible because of David's having connected me to so many people in so many different locations who were dedicated to Jack's legacy. That day, like many of you know, he played for 12 hours, backing up 32 chapters of Big Sur. No small accomplishment in itself. Second slide. Can you see that? That's me. That's my house. There's too much light over there. That's my house. He's playing on my piano. That's Carolyn Cassidy. In the foreground, I think you can see Adira. And in the background, you can see John Cassidy. This is an after party on Long Island at my house, and David was going wild on the piano. And John Cassidy jumped on the piano and started doing some kind of barrel house piano, and they asked me to go up there and do it, and I didn't know it. Couldn't keep up with these guys, so I was playing with my elbows on the piano. John Cassidy was furious. He said, what is this guy doing? David said, give him a chance. He's classically trained. So David's connection to contemporary Long Island-based poets. It's founded in earlier relationships with the beat, era figures, but blossomed in a host of networking opportunities, among them poetry readings at Gunther's Tap Room in Northport. Some of you may have attended that. The Action Museum, Summerfest in Huntington, many libraries and bookstores in the area. He was also engaged in a major speaking appearance at the War Women Birthplace. Just killed the audience there, just great. So that's the after party at my residence, a private residence, because I thought it was going to be a caption. I didn't know where it was going to go, so I didn't want to say it was my house. Third slide, please. Bradstock. Kevin will recognize David and John DeWitt, who was the bass player for many years in their trio. At Bradstock, a festival on the South Shore of Long Island, organized many years ago by a guy named Brad, and there's a special relationship that David has with the South Shore crowd. He's an honorary firefighter in Davis Park, and he goes to this Bradstock every year, and they'll throw up Grateful Dead bands, and they'll throw up hard rock bands and various bands, but when David comes up, it's pure David. And his ability to get into that scene and make it part of his own is a testament to his versatility. Next slide. New York City. That's a picture outside the C-Note. It was a tribute, I think, it was a part of the Howl Fest one year, and afterwards we gathered out front. You'll recognize Zoe Artemis, another person who used to belly dance with David, and some other people there, a skinny George Wallace, I think. And David, of course, is a primary denizen of the New York City poetry and music scene for many years at the Cornelia Street Cafe and Bowery Poetry Club and a lot of different areas. Always very generous with his time. Theater of New York, the Jazz Museum at Harlem. I saw him, and Kevin was there at the museum, Metropolitan Museum of Art. He and Patti Smith did a tribute to Jack Kerouac there. So he's all over the place in New York and has been for many years. Next. That is in the Hudson Valley in Beacon, New York. That's Mike Cherkovic, who runs CAPS. And that's David backing up poets from the Hudson Valley and the Ohio River Valley. I said to David, how about, what do you think of the idea of, bringing river to river, having a river to river fest? And just like what Megan said, the big yes came out. He said, yes, of course. And he lives up in that area, so he did the same thing in this beautiful Howland Center. He backed up these poets from both of those locations, up the Hudson Valley. Of course, he lives, or has lived up in that area as well, so it's a primary stomping ground for him and a place to perform with Pete Seeger and other people. Next. Louisville. Viking hillbilly insomniacathon impresario Ron Whitehead, and right, he's over there with David Amram. This is one of the many engagements. I think this one was the Viking Hillbilly one, which they did in New York City. Brought people from Iceland over, so it wasn't one of the insomniacathons in Louisville, but there's been a long-standing relationship, and it shows his willingness to reach out to different people. Next slide. Okay. Kevin, you recognize that picture? Yeah, that's Kevin and Adam and John DeWitt again, and David. This is posing, I think, outside the front of the Kerouac house in Orlando. And that's a place he introduced me to. I went down there. We had a big festival out in the cupola, out in the garden, in a park, and Carolyn Cassidy showed up, and I learned a lot about Florida from that experience. Next. Okemah, Oklahoma, the birthplace of Woody Guthrie. I was invited down to Oklahoma by some poets. They said, you want to do a reading and a workshop or something? I said yes, and afterwards it happened to be the Woody Guthrie Festival, the 6th year of the Woody Guthrie Festival in Okemah, Oklahoma. The first 5 years, the residents of Okemah, when the festival was about to start, they put up signs coming into town, "Go home, commies, go home, commies." But then they started to count their revenues, and in the 6th year, they put up signs saying, "Welcome, Woody fans." And this, I think, was in the 6th year up on the main stage. To show you his versatility, on the main stage, he was performing for 35,000 people, but that morning, he spent 2 hours with us poets in a local church, backing up each one of us that became and enabled us to be part, as poets, to be part of the Woody Guthrie Festival. Before David's intervention, we were not involved there, so another of his many accomplishments. I think, he's an honorary citizen here. He's like an honorary Oklahoman as well. So, next slide. Studio sessions. This was a tribute to Gregory Corso, soon after Gregory's death, and Casey Sear set it up. You'll see, I know you'll probably recognize Lee Ronaldo from Sonic Youth. He's one of the people that came in to the studio in New York City to perform. And I mention studios because, he has worked with me and on Northport Poets and on other occasions and devoted his time over in Glen Cove. I said, hey, can you back us up for 2 hours? He said, sure, because my daughter had given me 2 hours worth of studio time. And the first hour, each of the poets got to perform something with David, and which became Northport Celebrates Kerouac. We had an hour left over. So David said, I got another hour. What do you want to do? So I said, well, you want to back me up? And we did 9 cuts, 9 tracks to a CD. 1 take each track. There was no second takes on any of those tracks, which that's now available on YouTube. So just to show that, we have been able to connect in a lot of different ways. The last slide. Since 2001 was the initial contact with David, which resulted in my coming up here. I'll never forget, a couple months after 9/11, coming up here, and the somberness of that year, and then driving back to New York City and still seeing those 2 big searchlights up in the sky before they replaced the World Trade Center. So coming to Lowell, for me, has become connected with that sort of intense American experience of trauma and triumph and overcoming obstacles. So I want to thank David for all of those, and the many that you, of course, experienced. He, like you say, was in Philadelphia last week, and he's all over the world. But these are just a couple of my personal experiences with him. So that's the slide part. Now, hangoutology. I call it the Tao of David, because the Tao says, to be a good leader, you have to allow the community to raise itself up, so you become an invisible leader in the background. And when the community succeeds, they say, we're proud of our work because you made that happen. And that's what a Taoist leader does, and that's the Tao of David in a nutshell. But there are various components to it, and I want to go over them one at a time and talk to you about them very briefly, so you got to, some of the nuts and bolts of it, so you can apply them to your own work. First principle: we're family. That there's a beat constellation, and we are all part of it. That there's a community of spirit, the beat spirit, and we're all members of it. That's something that's pan-genre, pan-region, and really pan-generational, because you see David passing these things on to the next generation, including his own family, puts it in practice in his own family. Pan-genre because, he can be performing with, Charlie Parker or Dizzy Gillespie, or Patti Smith, or Willie Nelson, and his ability to chameleon-like, shape-shift to be able to bring his spirit and the spirit of the beat movement to those different genres is part of the magic. And of course, pan-regional. I read today a quote. He said, "I equate barroom entertainers with the treasures of European culture." As David's words. Important words to think about just a little bit, and that all the different things that we perform, whether it's something on a doumbek or on a tambourine or with a penny whistle, or with a classical violin or a piano, all count of equal value to him. And understanding that helps us to understand that we have the same capacity to explore all those different genres. 2, community building. His idea of listening and collaborating and being inclusive, as you say, letting people come up to the stage with very little experience or tons of experience and have their moment, is critical to understanding that he understands that there's people at various places in their career. There's some people who are beginners, some people at the tail end of their careers, and he has this capacity to understand that and have tolerance for that, which is something that we all should examine in ourselves, our tolerance for people at different levels and giving them a chance to be included, even if they're not at the particular place you're in. Know your role. Like you saw in Okima, he was able to get up on stage in front of 35,000 people and then back up 15 poets the morning before that. Know your role. Sometimes the leadership role, overt ambassadorial leadership role. Other times it's basically in the background and support. We understand that for ourselves as artists. Sometimes we lead, sometimes we follow. And sometimes we get out of the way. Be the ambassador when called upon. I remember when they auctioned off the scroll in New York City the night before. They had a scroll viewing. It was in a plasticine case in a bar across from Columbia. David walked in. It was just like, nobody knew what to do. David just unpacked his chord, set it up, and just started playing. His ability to turn a non-event into a celebration, into a real party, really struck me at that point. So we do have a role, and we can do that at times. When you serve one, you serve all. When you serve one, you serve all. He said that, David said that his goal was to add something to the repertoire in terms of your own material adding to it. 3, be what you do. Be what you do. And this is more the nuts and bolts of the methodology. The spontaneity, we know what that is. The bop improvisation, which is, taking a tune and working around the core and teasing it and going off into tangents, but knowing where to land so that you've done something creative and improvisational, but stayed within the core of a meaningful, established piece of art. That's what bop improvisation is. Bop prosody, that forward motion. Nobody who has ever spent time with David does not understand his capacity to talk and talk and talk, and you go, talk, and you're never going to come to the point, but at the end, he lands. He always lands. It's a beautiful thing. Curiosity, eclecticism. Eclecticism, that's so important, you know, in understanding what he brings to it. The instrumentation, piano, French horn, doumbek, Irish penny whistle, tambourine, Native American flute. The ability to cross genre. He worked with Leonard Bernstein, like I said, Willie Nelson, Patti Smith, Paquita Rivera, Duke Ellington, Jack Kerouac, Pete Seeger, Woody Guthrie. We are driven, and that's just my words, we are driven not by our DNA, but by our openness and our imagination. This is a great lesson to learn from David Amram, the openness to what you can do with something you didn't do yesterday. Positivity, the big yes. Laissez le bon temps rouler. If it's not fun, says David Amram, it's not music. You know this. You've heard him say it. Enjoy yourself and don't be discouraged by what other people say. Just hang out with somebody else. David Amram. Finally, we are witness and legacy to the Amram Tao just by gathering here today. Much of his grown life putting it into practice in New York, Orlando, Colorado, Oklahoma, Carville, Hudson and Ohio River valleys, and Cleveland, San Francisco, LA, here in Lowell, Massachusetts. We are witness and legacy to that community building and the inculcating in all of us of the spirit that he brings to his task as a leader and a follower of this community. I'll just close with this final thought. You know Rafi? Rafi? I don't know. He's got a song, yeah. He said the only reason why I put David Amram on the song is because it rhymes with jam. David Amram and jam, which, you know, is incredibly stupid because, you know, to rhyme with jam is what it's really about. It's all about the jam, says David. It's all about the jam. Whenever you stand up, any of us here to perform and represent, you should repeat after me, just as I did before I came up. Here's one for me and one for the Amram Jam. And that's my intent to do that as long as I'm able. So thank you for listening, and maybe we'll come back.
George Wallace, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear one more time for Mr. George Wallace. Phenomenal tributes to David Amram, and we're going to hear some of his music very shortly, performed on the piano. We're going to hear a beautiful sonata. But before we do that, I have one of our local state representatives, a phenomenally gifted person and a person with a very interesting story. But she is going to be coming up here to offer a citation for David. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for our state rep, Vanna Howard, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, thank you so much, Mike. So you will be accepting the citation in David's behalf. Okay, thank you. Well, it's so great to be here with you all tonight, and it is my honor to present this citation to the legend David Amram. So I think I can see okay without. Yeah, it's bright enough. And do you want to come over here, Mike? And so, oh, hi, Mike. I didn't see you. And so, a citation from the Massachusetts House of Representatives. So. Oh, thank you. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the House of Representatives, be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to David Amram in recognition of your lifelong dedication to keeping the spirit and legacy of Jack Kerouac alive through festivals, events, and music, which have greatly enhanced the continuing Kerouac presence in Lowell. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors. Given the 6th day of October 2023 by Ronald Mariano, Speaker of the House, offered by me, State Representative Vanna Howard, and congratulations to David. I know he wished he could be here, but here is the citation for him. Thank you, Mike, for accepting on his behalf.
Thank you so much. And I am honored to accept this on behalf of David. And I will say, we have folks from Chelmsford TeleMedia here who are documenting this, so David will see all of these dedications, and we will absolutely get all of these things to him. So, as you know, I don't know if I've had a greater honor than being able to stand in for the one and only David Amram. I mean, that's not bad on a Friday night. Is State Senator Ed Kennedy in the house? I hadn't seen him yet. If he's not here yet, then we will hold that for a moment. And if Yoshiko is ready to go. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce Yoshiko Klein in just a moment. But before I do that, while I'm standing in for David Amram, it seems like the most appropriate time to deliver a message that I just received from him and his daughter, but directly from David. And we all know that he's not here because he's got COVID, but he's definitely on the mend. He's doing a lot better today, and he wishes he was here. He sent me a message today to read to you all. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a direct message from David Amram. Good evening to all my friends at Lowell Celebrates Kerouac. I wish I could be there to join you and thank every single person there for your kindness and for your involvement in the legacy of a great American writer, great American spirit, and proud son of Lowell, Massachusetts, Jack Kerouac. I've had the pleasure of joining you all at Lowell Celebrates Kerouac since 1994. I would like to thank my friend of 50 years, Kevin Twigg, a great drummer, and Renee Hart, a wonderful bass player, who have come so often to help share in this celebration. I would also like to thank the wonderful Yoshiko Klein, who's playing my piano sonata for the first time in Lowell. When I wrote this piece back in 1960, Jack often crashed at my tiny place in Greenwich Village and encouraged me to use my everyday life experience as an inspiration for classical composition. I want to thank George Wallace and Meg Smith, two wonderful poets, for honoring my collaborations with Jack. I'm sure we would all like to thank Mike Flynn, president of Lowell Celebrates Kerouac, and his colleague at WUML, David, that's Raven David Tierney, the mouth of the Merrimack. I know he's down here somewhere. Like all the tireless volunteers at LCK, we want to send out a big merci to two former presidents of the board, Steve Eddington and Judith Bissett, who have continued to work for so many years, harder than ever, on Jack's behalf. There are so many friends coming, not only from Jack's family's ancestral home in Quebec, with new young Quebecois scholars like Jean-Christophe Clodier and Hassan Mehani, and dear old friend Jim and Tony Sampis, who welcomed me when I first came to LCK in 1994. And Bill Walsh, who always helps me find my way around town when I get lost. I wish all of you a great evening at Zorba's. I wish I could be there to toast with a glass of their fine Restina. Thank you for keeping Jack's heritage alive and for celebrating the town of Lowell. Until we cross paths again, see you all next year. The words today of Mr. David Amram, ladies and gentlemen, who I know wishes he could be here right now. Another one of our local politicians. He's a man who is a very strong supporter of a lot of the cultural things that happen in the city of Lowell, including Lowell Celebrates Kerouac. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the microphone our own state senator, Edward Kennedy, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. You know, during my tenure in the Senate, I've been able from time to time to hand out citations from the Massachusetts State Senate, but this is the first time I'm also here with the citation from the governor and the lieutenant governor. So it's, I'm disappointed that David isn't able to be with us, but he's certainly deserving, and maybe next year we can do a reenactment when he is here. And hopefully, if we're all here, we can do something like that. Anyways, let me just read these if I can. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts, David Amram, on behalf of the residents of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we are pleased to confer upon you this governor's citation in recognition of your outstanding musical career and contributions to your community through your notable talents as a composer, an arranger, and conductor. We commend you for your more than 60 years of service to the musical community and wish you many more years of success to come. Given the 16th day of September in the year 2023 and signed by Her Excellency Governor Maura Healey and Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll. And I also have the second one, which is from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the State Senate, an official citation. Be it known that the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations to David Amram in recognition of over 25 years sharing your musical talents and stories about Lowell's native Jack Kerouac with the Lowell Celebrates Kerouac festivals. And be it further known that the Massachusetts Senate extends its best wishes for continued success, that this citation be duly signed by the President of the Senate and attested to and a copy thereof transmitted to the Clerk of the Senate, and it's signed by the President of the Senate, Karen Spilker, by Michael Hurley, who is the Clerk of the Senate, and by myself. So there's two citations, and I think that Representative Howard gave one a little bit earlier. But again, once again, I hope to be here next year. We can do a reenactment of this, and I think it would just be great if everybody's here. Thank you very much. Have a great night. Have a great weekend.
Massachusetts State Senator Edward Kennedy, ladies and gentlemen. And it is a night in tribute to David Amram. And David Amram, as you heard in my message that I read before the Sonata, intends to be here next year. So the reenactment is already being prepared for and planned.